Hello, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This week in Service Management course, I would cover for Chapter 6, titling Service Quality. And this week is basically FOC online class, which is full online class session for particularly the week after your semester break. I will cover this chapter basically derived from the textbook, and also the PowerPoint has been uploaded into the Edmodo platform. In Service Quality chapter, I would like to cover a few learning objectives. Basically, in this chapter, I would like to make you understand about the dimension of service quality, particularly by ServQual. For example, reliability, responsiveness, empathy, and so on. And second learning objective, I would like to cover on the how to address the gap model within this service quality, how to diagnose it, and how to make correction to close down the gap. We also will apply the Poka-Yoke methods, widely famous improvement or preventive method by the Japanese scientist Poka-Yoke. And we will also look at QFD, quality function deployment, how to assess particular service so that it meets the customer expectation. You're also going to have hands-on calculation based on SPC, statistical process control, to calculate the upper control limit and lower control limit, particularly using X-bar chart. I will also explain about the unconditional service guarantee, what are the mechanisms to guarantee service. We'll take a look on also on the walkthrough audit or WTA. And last but not least, explaining about the concept of service recovery. Here we go. What is service quality actually? What do you expect on service quality? Is it sufficient for having service with a smile? And how to go about service warranty? For example, if you are using ATM automated teller machine service, and if the service is failed, are you able to get some compensation because of the failing service? And for example, you want to get your car repaired at the workshop. So is the workshop willing to open until your service get done, or you should come in the following next day morning? How about money back guarantee? Normally, if it is a product, you can easily get warranty back for your failing product with a new replacement product. But for service, it is basically more challenging. Let's take a look on what they call moment of truth. Actually, in service, the actual service quality is when you are dealing with the customer. That is the truth of the moment in which a customer will find whether your service is a high quality, average quality, or low quality. In the ServQual or Service Quality Survey by Parasuraman, it is also in your textbook. It is mentioned basically 5 main elements of service quality. I call it a rater, R-A-T-E-R. Like in the slide below, the lowest line there, R-A-T-E-R. On the ServQual dimension, the first dimension that is being discussed is reliability. Reliability means customer can get what do they expect. So reliability also means the service is performed as promised, and it is dependable and done rightfully. For example, if they promise you to get the service, your car service done within 2 hours, then they will get it done within 2 hours. Another example in the book, it is explained that, for example, normally postman will send letter to your house at exactly 2:30 in the afternoon. So every day, you are expecting to receive a letter in the afternoon at 2:30, and every day you will receive the letter on time. That is reliable. I would say, in other words, it is consistent. The second dimension of service quality is being responsive. Responsive means that service provider is willing to give extra help timely and promptly to the customer. Customer can always expect a good, I would say, support or help from the service provider. For example, customer can avoid having a very long line in the bank, for example, in getting a service. If the lines are full, then bank can open a new counter to give a faster speed of service. That is part of being responsive, which is giving support at the time when it is needed and it is timely. The third dimension of service quality is called assurance. Assurance means that customer receiving the service can feel and get the trust and the confidence by the service provider. For example, you want to buy furniture at IKEA, so the service provider or the service assistant will give you good advice, will give you good support, and they are being polite to you, and they also respect you as a customer. That is will boost the confidence for customer to buy their products. That is what being called assurance. The fourth dimension of service quality, or they call it ServQual, SERVQUAL, is empathy. Empathy is actually the ability of the service provider to be friendly, to be, I would say, listening deeply to the customer problem or customer needs. For example, you said you are looking for good furniture. So service provider can interpret good furniture means comfortable, good furniture means affordable, good furniture means long-lasting, good furniture means high quality. So empathy means service provider can understand deeper on a general statement made by the customer. That is what we call empathy, or in other words, I would say ability to give more to what has been said by the customer. The last and not least dimension of service quality, the fifth dimension, is tangibles. Tangible means ambience, environments, observable things which customer can experience and feel when getting the service. For example, if you go to hospital, you expect the hospital is clean, orderly, timely, human flow is in control. The layout of the furniture for patient waiting to get inspection by the doctor also being arranged nicely and properly. So that is what we call observable features of the service provider facility, which is called tangible. So all these 5 elements, in order to remember it easily, I just keep it as a acronym RATER, which is RATER. RATER means reliability, assurance, tangible, empathy, and responsiveness. Next, how to survey, how to get good perception of service quality from customer. In here, it is highlighted that perceived service quality considering few perception. For example, one is word of mouth, Word of mouth means that service quality is good, or you heard it is good from your friends, or from your relative, or from anybody who has gotten the service previously. Secondly, good perceived service, you may experience it by yourself, which is to meet your personal needs. Or good perceived service quality can be judged from past experience, either you yourself or your friends who told you about the service quality. And perceived service quality can be judged also from the customer expected service. What does the customer expect from the rendered service, and also what does customer perceive the service should be. For example, you want to go for servicing of your car, so you are expected that you must be served on your request within 30 minutes of your application. For example, you arrive at 9 a.m. and you expect the least by 9:30 your car should be in the job queue for the service to get done. And perceived service is that you got your service per the time being promised. For example, within 1 hour, your car will be started to be serviced. So expected service is what do you expect, how fast is the response from the service provider, and the perceived service, at least you put your time expectation, how long your service job queue will get served. So on the left hand side here, as I discussed earlier, the service quality dimension can be seen at the reliability, responsiveness, assurance, empathy, and tangible. And then this is compared between your expectation and what do you experience, the perceived service. Okay, this is expectation, and this is actually your experience. And this will serve you on the assessment of service quality. There are 3 scenarios for the service quality assessment. First scenario, expectation exceeded, in which ES is smaller than PS, this is quite a quality surprise because you get more than what you expected. Second scenario is your expectation being met, in which your expected service equal to perceived service. For example, you expect you can get done the service for 2 hours, then yes, exactly, you can get done your car service within 2 hours. The third scenario is expectation not met. What you are expecting is not being experienced. This is the third scenario, in which expected service is more than the perceived service, right? So in other words, the service that you got is less than what you expected. This is what they call unacceptable quality. This is the scenario of perceived service quality, whether expectation exceeded, whether expectations met, or whether expectations are not met. So under that kind of 3 expectation, we can craft this service quality gap model. This is actually in your textbook at figure 6.3, page 147. In this service quality gap model, actually it starts here, the customer expectation. What do you expect of the service from the, for example, car servicing service, right? So from customer expectation, it is being compared to the perception of the customer expected. As I said earlier, if you expect your car will get done service for 2 hours, and then if you get the that kind of experience, then there is no gap between customer expectation and the management perception of customer experience. So if there is a big difference between expectation and perception, then this market research gap is going to be big. And this is important at this gap, that the service provider to understand customer between expectation and perception. Second flow of this understanding this service quality gap is the difference between the perception and the service standard. Okay, this is what they call design gap 2. This is more about service design. Okay, for example, if you go to a car service, for example, Honda car servicing center, so they have their standard stated to give the service. For example, if it is a major service, it may take 3 hours, or if it is minor, maybe it is just about 1.5 hours. These are the standards. And the standard is that they also state you what kind of service package you will have to undergo for this time of service. For example, service package number 3, in which the labor is free and only minor parts is being replaced, and later they'll tell you how much cost of the service this time around, for example 500 or 600. So those are part of the service standard that you must you must experience within the rendered service. So the difference between the service standard SOP and the perception is called service design. Subsequently, service standard, if you compare with service delivery, this is what they call conformance or compliance, right? The compliance between service standard and the service delivery, they call it conformance, which is explained as gap 3. So if the service delivery is conforming to the service standard, this gap is considered closed, or the gap non-exists. If the service delivery is not as per what service standard stated, or SOP, standard operation procedure, then this gap is not met. Subsequently, it is the difference between service delivery and customer perception. The service which is being done for your car and the perception from the customer, this is what we call communication gap. So if the service provider communicate clearly to customer what kind of service delivery they will deliver, and it has made the customer to perceive and understand the service delivery, then this is what they call a communication gap can be closed. And this is normally how customer manage between the perception and service delivery, as far as managing as the evidence, the reality of the service. Last but not least, it is the comparison between customer perception and customer expectation, as the previous slide shows, which is this, between the expected service and also the perceived service. Okay, this is the expected and this is the perception or the experience. The difference between the expectation and the real experience, they call it gap 5, that represent customer satisfaction. What the customer experience, if it is good and excellent, and it meets the expectation of customer to be fast, good and excellent, then this gap will be closed. So this is basically explaining the variance or the gap between the expectation and the real experience or perception by the customer. Another method to assess how good is the service quality, apart from the ServQual, from reliability, assurance, tangible, empathy, and responsiveness, is another method called WTA, or walk-through audit. What does walk-through audit? If ServQual, RATER, focus on the assessment on the quality of service, WTA focus very much on the operational quality of the service, how the service is being operated, how the service is being delivered. For example, WTA says that service quality system, service delivery system should conform to customer expectation. That is very basic. WTA says also customer impression of service is influenced by use of all sense. That's why the feeling, the touch, the signages, the smiles, these are part of the what you can assess or measure at walkthrough audit instead of at the using ServQual. Okay, Service manager lose sensitivity owing to familiarity, because this is what we call taken for granted, because the service has been done daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly, and humans tend to take it for granted in terms of giving high quality service to customer. As it says, service manager lose sensitivity owing to familiarity, because they take it so familiar, because it is so routine, and as such they start losing the deep level of quality of service. Walkthrough audit is a detailed service audit for customer's perspective is needed. So you need to have the customer perspective in order to run walkthrough audit. Walkthrough audit is basically operational based approach, which is, for example, you can audit how difficult or how easy it is to find a lecturer room in their faculty. For example, from going to the building and then go to the lobby, are there sufficient signages to find specific name of the lecturer and their specific floor and specific room? So that is what they call operational based approach. So it can be done through walkthrough audit instead of the ServQual 5-dimension assessment evaluation. People say that in order to have a service quality, it can be achieved through the design. Okay, for example, quality in service package. Right. So if you go to a budget hotel, of course your expectation is not as high as the 5-star hotel. That is, budget hotel will be designed as per budget hotel expectation and experience, where also the 5-star hotel will be designed and will be cater as a highly luxury serving hotel level. So service quality by design also can be ensured by Poka-Yoke method. Poka-Yoke method means it is ensuring that if it is fail, then the system will fail safely. For example, if you go to amusement park, so they will put certain kind of limitation as far as the height cannot exceed at certain measurement, for example 3 meter or 3.5 meter, because there are reasons for ensuring the height won't be more than the specified measurement, or else somebody will get their head being struck by pole or from on the wall and so on. So that is Poka-Yoke. And the other part that we will cover on this service quality by design is the QFD, which is quality function deployment, also represent house of quality. The next segment covered in the textbook is that Taguchi cost of quality function. Taguchi says that the target of the cost, right, which is actually can be exactly met here, right, if your quality does not overflow to the upper limit and it does not go more than the lower quality limit. So this is upper control limit and this is lower control limit. So if your the performance of your service of your product meet at this exact target, then your overall cost will not shoot up here and also will not shoot up here. So as such, Taguchi proposed that target of the performance of the product must always be met at this lowest level point at this as per the targeted cost. So if the performance of the product can perform at a very severe condition and it still meet the target, then the cost for repairing, the cost for quality remedy will be kept low or even met the target. Classification of service failure, for example, like server error or customer error. For example, the task is doing work done work incorrectly. Customer error is failure to bring necessary material. right? As far as for the treatment, failure to listen to customer, and customer error is actually failure to follow the system flow. And in terms of tangible, actually the service provider failure to wear clean uniform, and the result by customer error is also contributed by failure to signal service failure to signal service failure. So these are part of the contribution by the service provider that cause error, and this is part of the customer that experience the error, and this is what they call classification of service error: the service provider and also the service receiver. Next part is about house of quality. House of quality is actually a method to assess a service system provider. For example, this is a Volvo village. Okay, in the early of the chapter, you have come across on the village Volvo service center, in which many of the old-timer Volvo cars user, they prefer to go to the non-authorized Volvo service center, right? So this is actually the second grade of workshop in which Volvo car can be serviced. In the textbook, it is explained that this house of quality can be used to assess the performance, how to assess village Volvo service competency. For example, the shape is looking like a house because they have the roof, they have the chimney, they have the body of the house, and they have the basement, and perhaps here they have a kitchen. Okay. In the house of quality assessment, you can put the 5 dimension of SERVQUAL, which is consisting of reliability, responsiveness, assurance, empathy, and tangible. You can put that in the row. Where else the service element, as far as Volvo center servicing, assessor can put the element of service needed. For example, the training, the attitude of the mechanic and the service manager or the service provider, the capacity of the service provider to give the service, the information provided to customer, and what are those equipment, tools, or any supporting gadget that will make the service more efficiently. On the customer expectation, you could put the evaluation from 0 to 9, right? As far as on the assessment here, reliability. So you run the assessment, for example, judging on the reliability, which is very good, which is at 9 for village Volvo, and responsiveness, for example, 7, empathy, and also tangible, respectively. Okay, and you can measure this you can measure in a relationship situation in which you can measure the reliability with respect to training, which is known to be high. If the training is high, I think the reliability will be high. Same like the service element for attitude. Say attitude for the service provider, like the manager, the assistants, and also the mechanic. So the attitude is high, then the assurance is also high, which is 9. Capacity, I mean the ability to give the service, which is capacity and responsiveness, right, which is also high, and so on. So these are basically the relationship between service element and also customer expectation, right? So if you want to measure or basically calculate the relationship between the service element and the customer expectation, then you can have, for example, reliability and training. You can multiply it, right, and add to the next value, which is responsiveness and training. 7 multiplied by 3 plus 9 multiplied by 8. And on assurance and training, you can multiply 6 multiplied by 5, add to this value. And then if you want to measure empathy and training, which is 4 multiplied by 0. And then if it is on tangible and training, then you can multiply 2 by 2 and then add up to the multiplication of all these. And then that will give you this total, which is 127, which is the weighted score for relationship between customer expectation and training. And so on. You can measure customer expectation on attitude, you can measure customer expectation on capacity, and so on. So these are all the scores accumulated. From here, you can see which part is the most difficult to improve. For example, the lowest score, which consider the most difficult part to improve, which is the capacity. And also next is the equipment or tools. These are quite difficult to improve, in which needing more attention in order it can be improved or strengthened further. So these are the relationship between within the house of quality between customer expectation and also service element. Next, to achieve service quality, we can look also tools by Juran and SPC by Dr. Deming, and also unconditional service guarantee, in which we will discuss and look subsequently. Let's take a look on cost of service quality. For example, bank, what are the failure costs, how to detect it, and how to prevent it. For example, external failure, loss of future business. How to control it? Well, we can do it by survey on the peers, for example, within the bank or outside the bank. And how to do the preventive cost is through quality planning. In the chapter of the textbook, they explain on the SPC, statistical process control. Okay, SPC stands for controlling the nominal, the upper control limit and lower control limit. I will focus my lecture more on X bar chart instead of the P bar chart, because I think X bar chart is more practical, is more daily use in order comparison to P chart. And in order to test your understanding, it's good that if you could calculate this table metrics and calculate out the upper control limit and lower control limit as per guideline sample shown in page 160 until 161. So I expect you to run the calculation and let me know what is the upper control limit and lower control limit. This is a P chart. We are not focusing or putting our time on P chart. And next is unconditional service guarantee by customer view. Okay, basically there are a few examples in which you can understand service guarantee. For example, at LL Bean is a clothing company in which if you buy from LL Bean, if you are not satisfied, you can return the product unconditionally to LL Bean, and LL Bean will replace you with the new one, which is considered unconditional. Okay, you don't like it or you're not satisfied, they just simply replace it for you at LL Bean. Some other companies follow their own service guarantee. For example, like City Travel, right, which is easy to report or easy to make complaint and so on. So these are a few examples how company make use of service guarantee to ensure their customer satisfaction. and few also other example for well-known company. For example, to ensure unconditional service guarantee, like for example Federal Express, delivery courier company, they set a clear standards. For example, like 10 days delivery service, next day delivery service, and so on. So these are part of the unconditional guarantee by the management, so that the customer is always satisfied. Well, satisfied customer is a happy customer who will come back for you to support your subsequent service, or they are the loyal customer. So normally loyal customer are the satisfied customer. Based on the research, this is basically about customer feedback and word of mouth, right? For example, what does the research output say? The 4% complainers are more likely to stay with the supplier than the 96% of non-complainer. So it means that if this 4% complainer give complaint to their supplier, and they will more likely to stay. But majority of us don't like to complain, which is 96%, right? This 96% normally will not stay, because normally people who are complaining, they are more likely to stay with the supplier because they bother to complain. Complain means to give feedback to the service provider so that they can improve future services. So these are basically few results, numerical result derived from market research. Next, last but not least, is about service recovery framework. How to recover your service, and this is the suggested, I would say, model. Okay, for example, you have this patronage. Patronage means your customer who are actually sustaining services for your company. So if the customer get the service, but the service is actually failing, customer will judge how severe is the failure. Is it disaster or is it small? And customer also will make a judgment on their experience, the perceived service quality. Is it excellent or bad? And this will be judged on the service recovery expectation. From there, customer will decide whether they want to be loyal, or whether they are assured for service guarantee, right? From here, service failure occur, right? And then provider aware of the failure. The service provider know about the failure, right? And next, it goes to the physiology, empathy, or apology.